Good evening and welcome into Tennessee Volunteers live on the Voice of College Football Network. Tucker Harlan and Jordan Binkley with you on this Monday evening. Hope you are all doing well. Hope you guys had a fantastic weekend, whether that was watching the Vols or hate watching somebody else. We are glad that you are here. I personally am very glad that we only talk about the Vols on this channel and not a specific team in Nashville that happens to not be very good at football in the NFL. We won't open that Pandora's box, though. We have happier matters to get to tonight. I would ask Jordan how his weekend was, but he was with me for basically half of it. Had to give Jordan his first Gus's experience on Saturday. I'm assuming this is as close to a 5-star review as you can get, Jordan, with Gus's.
Oh, yeah, man. Gus's was absolutely phenomenal. I see why Pat McAfee was raving about it. And at this point, I feel like I've experienced a little bit of everything from Tennessee games now outside of the Vol Navy, which is something I need to knock off my bucket list here soon.
Hey, you and me both. We still haven't done the Vol Navy just yet, but I haven't had reason to. Admittedly, I had not been to Gus's until I started college. If you would like to ask me why, I'll tell you privately. But no, I went there the day before I started college. The Tuesday I started college, or before I started college, I went to Gus's for the first time and been in love with it ever since. Definitely very unhealthy for you, but you should absolutely go. Only minor complaint for me is that they were pumping everything out, so they just ditched the Gus dust this time around, which that makes the Gus's experience all the better. I have some in my house still, I think. But that's enough on Gus's for one night. I don't want to make you guys hungry and make you want to eat dinner as opposed to watching us. But one promotional matter before we get into the show here, and we've mentioned this a few times in the past, but we have merch here on the Voice of College Football Network. Let me scroll down to Tennessee real quick. It's not sharing really quick. I don't know what that's all about. There we go. Tennessee merch. You got hats. You got a camo trucker hat. You got a dad hat. You got T-shirts, sweatshirts, white polos. You can get yourself a coffee mug. You can get yourself a tumbler. And you can get yourself a can cooler. All of that is available on vocfb.com. If you would like to find it, type in the website and then scroll over to shop. And that is where you can find the apparel. I will drop the link in the comments for you guys. But go check that out. It's really cool that we've been able to do this and something that we've been excited about for a very long time here on the Voice of College Football Network. So, to Tennessee football now. We had a game last week in Neyland Stadium. Jordan and I were both there in Z14 watching the game. Vols defeated ETSU 72-17. Crowd was okay. Didn't have super high expectations for it, just with the impending weather, or what we thought was impending weather. It actually lightened up by the time the game rolled around, which I was both surprised and impressed by. And it also just, it's ETSU. You're going to see better crowds. Like, I know for a fact there will be a better one this week, just given the implications of that game in Neyland Stadium. But the Vols get it done 72-17 against the mighty Buccaneers. And that ties a program record in the modern era. Or not ties, it breaks the record set last year in the Kent State game for most points scored by a Tennessee football team in the modern era. Obviously, there were some back in the Stone Age that were scoring in the hundreds back when you had those kinds of blowouts in the 222-0 days if you're a Georgia Tech fan. But good win for Tennessee overall. I guess we can start on offense, and really only one bad play in this game that came to my mind, and it was that fumble, or the botched snap, I should say, late in the first half. Tennessee already had 41 points at the time, though, so not a ton to be upset by necessarily. Jordan, what was your assessment of Joey Aguilar on Saturday?
I mean, I feel like he played well. I mean, he got his completion percentage up from last week. I mean, I know it was just ETSU, but it's nice to see him complete more passes. I did really enjoy that pass that he had to Mike Matthews in the end zone. I thought that one was pretty nice. Of course, it was cool seeing all the stuff. Like we didn't really know about it during the game, but seeing on social media after the fact, everything with his grandmother being there and his mom, like that was all pretty cool. But I mean, I think overall Joey Aguilar played pretty well. I mean, we kind of seen what to expect from him from the Syracuse game, and I feel like he played around the same, a little bit better on the completion side, of course. But yeah, I mean, Joey Aguilar continues to be good. But we'll really see where the test is next week when Tennessee goes to play against Georgia.
Yeah, so you mentioned that throw to Mike Matthews, and I thought that was one of the two most impressive throws he made in that game. Not a play that was on script by any means, but he rolled out and took a shot in a bit of a dangerous window, but he put the ball where he needed to put it. And also credit Mike Matthews, too. You know, there were some plays in that Syracuse game 2 weeks ago where, he's tightly contested in coverage. But Joey put that ball in a good enough spot to where he could catch it. No, Joey wasn't perfect in that game, but Mike could have made the plays, and he did make the plays this time around, went for over 100 yards in this game, which is more receiving yards than he had all of last season. But, of course, we can't talk about the passing game without mentioning Tennessee's lead wide receiver in this game, which was Chris Brazzell. Of course, he goes for over 100 yards as well. In fact, he went well into the hundreds. I want to say 191.
It says 125. I'm seeing right
125. Here. I'm sorry. I'm confusing the nines because he had 9 catches. That's what it was. But 2 touchdowns. The play, though, that really sticks in my mind that Joey Aguilar made throwing the ball was the play where it looks like he's about to get sacked, but he completes a screen pass, not anything particularly long. It was just enough to get the first down. But you get sacked there, and you're going to have to punt the ball in that situation. And will he be able to do that in a game like Georgia or anybody else in the SEC? Probably not, just because they have the athletes that can really get after you. But still an impressive play by Joey Aguilar, I thought.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it once, I've said it a million times. I mean, it's so exciting to see Tennessee have a quarterback that's actually comfortable in the pocket and can wait in there and make the throws, even with the pressure in his face. I mean, like you said, we'll have to see how it ends up going against Georgia. But I mean, so far, this offensive line, has really been holding up for the team. Like, I don't remember a sack happening in the game. I know we left. Yeah, I know we end up leaving a little bit early in the fourth quarter, but I mean, yeah. So far, Tennessee's 2 games into the season and is yet to let up a sack. I mean, I feel like this offensive line's had a huge turnaround so far in the season, and I think that's why we're seeing Joey Aguilar be able to complete some more passes down the field. That and he's just quick at making decisions. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be exciting to see what SEC play is going to be like. I mean, if Tennessee's offensive line keeps up the same pace, then I think Tennessee's going to have a pretty good offense this season.
Yeah, and one thing you mentioned too earlier about Joey Aguilar, Jordan, and I think it's really important to bring up just in the context of this quote-unquote trade between Tennessee and UCLA. The family loves Tennessee. They love being at Tennessee and seeing Joey Aguilar play. That was never the case with the Iamaleava family. There was always just this resentment toward the fan base and ultimately the program in the end. So that's something that I think is very important to recognize. And you mentioned it with the social media piece as well. One thing I would like to mention in the passing game as it relates to a guy that we mentioned earlier was Chris Brazzell. Made some very nice plays over the course of that game, had 2 touchdown catches. Kind of seems like the whole situation in the offseason, just with the arrest and, getting a new quarterback and having to work his way back into the lineup after some injuries sidelined him for a little bit. seems to have lit a little bit of a fire under him. We'll see how that continues into SEC play, but so far, I'm very impressed by what I've seen out of Chris Brazel, especially last week. So we'll see if he can keep it up. But I believe he is over halfway to his total for receiving yards from last season, which I believe is 333. Has 187 at the moment, so could get there pretty soon.
Yeah, I mean, I've been very impressed with Chris Brazel, especially like in this game. I mean, I feel like he's taken a huge step forward from last season, whereas like, seeing his stats when I think he was just a sophomore at Tulane, like he showed a lot of promise when he was heading into Tennessee. And I felt like last season was a little bit of a disappointment for him, but then again, like the whole passing offense wasn't as it was going to be expected. But yeah, I mean, like 125 yards. I mean, he had that nice jump ball in the end zone, which was really nice to see. I don't know. I mean, Tennessee's receivers are looking pretty good in the game. And, like Mike Matthews, I mean, he's averaging 18 and a half yards per play. And, it was nice to see him break out as well, because you mentioned it earlier. I mean, he's already got more yards in this game than he did the entirety of last season. So, it's good to see more Tennessee receivers getting more experience, because, like Tennessee was quite drained from the transfer portal last season. I think at one point they only had 3 or 4 scholarship receivers on the team, and it seems like they're making the most of it so far. So like hopefully these guys can stay healthy. But the receiving core seems like it's starting to make improvements each week, which is going to be important heading into some of the bigger games in the season.
Last thing I have in the passing game is on the backup quarterbacks, which are Jake Merklinger and George McIntyre, of course. We did not see George McIntyre play at all because we had left the game at that point, but 6 of 7 day for the third stringer. No passing touchdowns. I believe Juwan Morris ran for one when he was in the game. Merklinger was the first quarterback in off the bench, and it's a small sample size, but I got to be honest. I think this coaching staff made the right decision with the quarterbacks this time around, because it looked like the 2 of the last 4 seasons before now, there was not a proper decision made at quarterback. I don't know if that's the case with Joe or Nico. We know for sure it happened with Hendon and Joe back in 2021, but Nico clearly wasn't ready in 23, so I guess that's only one. But why I say that about Merklinger is he didn't look like he was very crisp with some of his passes. I didn't feel like I want to say there were like 1 or 2 incompletions immediately as he got in there, one of which was honestly fortunate not to be intercepted in that first possession. But he threw one ball to Chris Brazel, long pass, and it was more about Brazel making a play than Merklinger making a good throw, because Brazel had to come way back to that ball. And if that ball is thrown on target, that's a touchdown for Chris Brazel, which, of course, he did hit him for a touchdown pass one play later. But that and then the other touchdown pass was like a wheel route to Jack Van Dorselaer. So overall, I think this quarterback decision that the staff made was a proper one this year.
Yeah, and like heading into the season, I thought that Jake Merklinger was going to be the guy. Whereas, I mean, I think a lot of other Tennessee fans thought that was going to be the case as well. Even when Tennessee got Joey Aguilar, I still thought that there was a strong chance that Merklinger was going to be the starter. And I don't think that he played bad during the game. I mean, statistically, he did fine, throwing 118, 2 touchdowns, even like coming in as a backup. But like you said, like it seemed like when they took Joey Aguilar out of the game and put Merklinger in, I mean, it seemed like it took him a second to get the ball rolling. A couple incompletions there. And I feel like we got the answer why Joey Aguilar is the starting quarterback. Now, I wish I could have gotten to see George McIntyre play. Not really sure how he looked out there. I mean, the stats look good. Only 1 incompletion, but wish I could have gotten to see him play a little bit. But it's nice to see that Tennessee is still yet to throw an interception this season. So they're still, I mean, heading into the year, that was one of the bigger concerns with Joey Aguilar, because the year prior he threw, I think, 14 touchdowns. and everyone's worried that Tennessee was going to have a turnover issue. Well, so far in the season, Tennessee is yet to throw an interception, so it's looking pretty good from that department.
Yeah. That's all I've got on the passing game. Do want to touch on the running game for just a second before we shift over to defense and special teams. 276 yards, 5 touchdowns on the ground is a good output, regardless of the opponent. Deshaun Bishop only got 3 carries in this game. I think that's just the staff's way of saying we need to preserve you for next week for bigger and better opportunities to get big wins. Star Thomas was your most productive back. I believe it was 69 yards, 3 touchdowns, I know for sure, on the ground. The other 2 that scored touchdowns in that game were Peyton Lewis and DeJuan Morris. But overall, still getting good push up front. No sacks allowed, like you said, Jordan. I believe just 3 tackles for loss in this game. So overall, lots to like about the RB room. I'm not going to say that Star Thomas is clearly better than Deshaun Bishop just based on the sample sizes that we've gotten. But I do think you could see a good rotation going on between them and just over the course of the season. And Peyton Lewis ultimately, like we were talking about with Caleb last week, may take a step or back seat to those guys, I should say.
Yeah, and I like what we were talking with Caleb about the running backs last week because, I mean, I think it still holds true that like Tennessee has 3 good running backs that all have different games. I mean, Deshaun Bishop is your power runner, and I mean, he had that big, long 50-yard run in the game that was really nice. Star Thomas is like your do-it-all back. I mean, he seems to have great vision in the backfield. I mean, he's good in the receiving game as well. But yeah, I mean, it seems like Star Thomas has got the edge so far, but I don't think there's a huge difference, or at least it doesn't seem so yet, between him and Deshaun Bishop in terms of production. But I mean, it's a good problem to have here. I mean, Tennessee having 3 good running backs that can come in and play and be productive, and they've been playing other running backs this season too. I mean, they already got 2 other running backs, and Morris got his first touchdown last Saturday, and then Baker got some carries. So Tennessee, I mean, their running attack seems to be their MO for this season. And I mean, I think it's a good thing. I mean, like I was mentioning earlier, I mean, no interceptions for the season. And if Tennessee can keep being productive in the run game, and as long as they're not fumbling the football, I mean, I think Tennessee's going to really excel on offense this season. And, you know, a lot of people thought going into this year, Tennessee was going to have a down year on offensive side. I mean, because they lost so much production. But I mean, so far it seems like Josh Heupel just never misses a beat with these offenses, and just hopefully it continues going into the season. And then, I mean, I think Tennessee could make some shocking wins this year if they keep it up.
So that's all I've got on the offense. Overall, good day, 72 points, and that of course takes the program record in the modern era for points in a single game. Moving over to defense and special teams, don't have too much here. Defensively, 17 points looks like a lot against a team like ETSU, but you have to consider the context here. 7 of those points were in garbage time. Another 7 was on a 5-yard field set up by a fumble or a botched snap by the offense. So ultimately, that's what led to ETSU scoring those touchdowns. It is just Tennessee being a little bit lax late in the game. So overall, not a ton to complain about. 3 sacks and 7 TFLs, I believe, is what Tennessee finished with on that side. Tyree West, Josh Josephs, and true freshman Charles House out of North Carolina, all getting those sacks for Tennessee. No turnovers forced in this game. Not that you needed them. If you are into PFF grades, Jordan Ross was your highest graded player on PFF. Ty Redmond, highest graded freshman on PFF this week. He's been very impressive in the absence of Ricky Gibson and Jermon McCoy.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tennessee's defense ultimately played pretty well. I will say there was a little bit of concerning passes that were completed downfield earlier in the game. But I think Tennessee's defense, like you said, I mean, the points that they did give up, I mean, it wasn't as bad as it seemed on paper. considering that they were set up in good field position that first time. But yeah, I mean, Josh Joseph's playing well. I mean, it's nice to see him getting active out there because, I mean, going into the season, I thought he was going to be Tennessee's best defensive player. And I mean, I guess we'll wait and see how the rest of the season goes. But I mean, I think Tennessee created good pressure. I think that all the defensive backs have been stepping up well with the absence of Jermod McCoy and Ricky Gibson. And I mean, it was just ETSU. So, I mean, we don't really know how well they were really playing considering, it's an FCS opponent. But I mean, I think Tennessee's defense has been doing pretty well, and they only let up 167 passing yards and only allowed 49 rushing yards. And I mean, if you can do that each and every game, I mean, you're going to win almost every football game you play.
Yeah, generally you keep anybody in the 200-yard range, you're going to win. That's just how it is. So Tennessee did just that in this game. But I don't have too much more on the defense. Overall, it was a good week. Just not a week to cause a lot of stress for them on defense. Do want to mention one or two small things on special teams. Max Gilbert's 53-yard field goal make was impressive, so good for him for doing that. And then number two, a certain someone returning punts that we have been a little bit critical of lately. And he did a great job in this game. Boo Carter did a great job returning punts. I'm not going to be critical of him tonight. But I do want to say this because obviously he is still rusty on defense. He looked better this week, though. I want to say there was a TFL, maybe 1.5 from him. But, of course, ETSU is not going to have the athletes to outrun a guy like that. But I just wonder at what point you shift him over to punt returner and you just sit down with him and his mom and say, look, your kid's got a great future here. Why can't we make this work? Why are we having all these behavior problems? I'm sure that's a terrible way of putting it, but you got to find a way to straighten this thing out because this is obviously a great talent that you have in your program. There's potential there. You'd like to be able to use him. It would be a shame to see him go, but if this is going to continue to cause problems in the locker room, then you got to do its best ultimately and let him go. So I feel like this is a time to really just try and get him back in that role in punt returner because he was good on multiple occasions on Saturday at punt returner. They didn't use him on the last Saturday for the Syracuse game. And I'm not going to say it hurt Tennessee necessarily just because Tennessee was good on offense in that game, but it could have been a help. It absolutely could have been a help against Syracuse. And, when you need a big play from a guy on special teams, you can depend on Boo Carter to do that for you.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's clear at this point that the best aspect of his game is special teams. Before all the off the field drama came up this season, I had expectations that he was going to be one of the best defensive players on the team. I mean, him, Josh Josephs, I was a believer in Colton Hood for a while now. But I really thought Boo Carter was going to take a next level on defense this year. And he did step up. Like you said, I think he had a couple of tackles in the game, which I don't remember him having one in the Syracuse game, or if he did, it was only one. So it's good to see him getting a little bit more active on defense. But I mean, with how Tennessee secondary has been stepping up without Jermod McCoy and without Ricky Gibson, I mean, I don't know if Boo Carter is currently a top 4 defensive back on Tennessee secondary right now. And I think his best asset is special teams. And I think I saw, let me pull it up here. Yeah, he had 94 yards from punt returns during the game. And I mean, he looked pretty good when he was out there. I mean, I know it was just ETSU, but I remember a couple of those returns. I mean, it looked like he could have taken it to the house if just he had a couple more blocks and if the play ended up just being slightly better. But yeah, I mean, hopefully Boo Carter can step it up on defense this year because, I mean, I feel like if he doesn't have a strong impact there, then, I mean, he might end up going to Colorado or some other school But I mean, I feel like it's just all on him. I mean, he shouldn't have made the decisions that he made in the offseason. He should have been there in practice with this team. And if he was out there the practicing every day, I mean, he probably would have had a better start to his year on defense. And but at this point, I don't really know. I mean, we'll have to see how he does against Georgia. Maybe he can have a breakout game then. But I mean, so far he seems like just a valuable special teams asset for Tennessee. And so far, I mean, I just don't know if he's one of the better players on defense, or at least not yet.
Yeah, he's going to have to work to get back in there, I think. But it's not the worst thing in the world if you just slide him over to special teams. And I know that's not what he wants. But there have been guys that have made nice careers here at Tennessee out of doing that. The ones that really come to mind are Evan Berry and D. Williams here recently. Guys that were both defensive backs but did not play defensive back. They were almost exclusively special teamers. And it helped Tennessee a lot to have them in those roles. Not saying that's what they'll do with Boo Carter, and I think they'll be a little bit upset, that being the Carter family, if they were to move him away from defense or offensive opportunities that could potentially be open to him. Okay, well, that's about all I have on ETSU. Again, good win for the Vols, but bigger challenges lie ahead, and we'll get to them here soon. I do want to look, though, at the teams on Tennessee's schedule and their results from this week. Of course, when you beat a team, you'd like to see them do well in the future, and I don't think that necessarily happened with Syracuse this past week. They won 27-20 in overtime against UConn at home. UConn, I want to say, is still pretty solid. They were 9-4 last season, which is one of their better seasons since the dissolution of the Big East as a football conference. But Fran Brown visibly upset by the result on Saturday, even though it was a win. I had the team running sprints in the, I guess it's called the JMA Wireless Dome now. So not off to a great start with wins aging like fine wine for Tennessee, I don't think.
Yeah, I will say that situation on Twitter with Syracuse running after the game, I love that. I love that, honestly, seeing a coach that demanded greatness, because, I mean, I think that's one thing that Alabama's missing right now with their team. I mean, Nick Saban, how many times have we see clips of him where they're winning like 49-7, and then they have like, there's literally 30 seconds left in the game and their defense is not lined up correctly, and then Nick Saban's having a mental breakdown on the sideline. I mean, I feel like that's how you become a great team. And that was one of my concerns about Josh Heupel actually before, because I wondered how hard he was on his team, but I've since heard different stories. I forget what player was, it was a former player, was on a podcast recently, and they were talking about how Josh Heupel's demands greatness out of his players, and is, I guess, a lot different than the person that we see in the media rooms. So I don't really have that concern much anymore, but I thought that was a cool scene there with Syracuse. I thought it was a good coaching move right there.
Yeah, and they have harder challenges lying ahead too. I mean, one of the toughest schedules in the country, but that's the first team Tennessee played this year. Looking on down the schedule now, some interesting results. You had Georgia winning 28-6 against Austin Peay. We'll touch on that game later when we do a little bit more of an in-depth preview on Georgia to end the show. Navy defeating UAB 38-24. Service academies are up and down, but I also just don't think UAB is a very good football team, especially seeing that they lost or won 52-42 against Alabama State in week one. Now, here's one that caught my eye on Saturday night, and that's Mississippi State 24, Arizona State 20. Keep your eyes on this game here in the next 3 or 4 weeks. We'll see what happens with them against Northern Illinois and Alcorn State in the next two. I don't anticipate there being much coming out of those games other than Mississippi State dominating. But they aired it out in this game. They had 2 receivers go for 100-plus yards. Now, they did not defend the run well. I think Arizona State ran for like 250 on them, which that is also something to keep in mind for when Tennessee goes down there. But it doesn't look like Mississippi State is going to be the free pass it was last season to SEC teams.
Yeah, no, it was a weird weekend for college football because, I mean, I think some of the teams that we were worried about heading into the season, I mean, they haven't looked as impressive to start off as I think that we would expect. I mean, Georgia, they only scored 28 points last week against Austin P, which I was a little shocked by that. I mean, we just saw Tennessee last week score 72 points against ETSU. Now, I do think that Austin P is a better FCS team than ETSU, but still, you would imagine Georgia to be able to put up more than just 28 points there. And then too, like Vanderbilt too was shocking to me. I mean, they were, I think it was what, like 20-10 at one point they were down and then end up winning, I think 44-20 to finish the game.
They ended up blowing them out. So that was a little bit of a surprise too. I'll get to that one in a second. But yeah, you're right about Georgia, and I think a lot of that had to do with rain delays. Like that was a little bit of a problem down there in Athens, more so than in Knoxville this weekend. We were anticipating rain delays. We did not get them, fortunately. But yeah, bit of an odd win for Georgia for sure. Moving on down here, you have Arkansas winning 56-14 in their first ever meeting against Arkansas State. Taylon Green threw 2 interceptions, which is not great. I haven't looked back and see what happened exactly on those plays, but still a nice win for them. They have no cupcakes the rest of the way, though. It's Memphis, Notre Dame, and 8 SEC games for them that's left. I think Alabama was a little upset. They won 73-0 against ULM. Ty Simpson, 0 incompletions. We'll see how they do against SEC opponents. I'll tell you what, Kentucky is exactly who I thought they were. 30-23 loss to Ole Miss. They always play Ole Miss close. Zach Calzada's still not overly impressive throwing the ball. They ran the ball okay, did their little ball control thing that Mark Stoops likes to do up there in Lexington. Ole Miss ran all over them. Austin Simmons made some mistakes in that game for Ole Miss that led to a couple of Kentucky turnovers, but that's the one game that I'm looking at right now that I just absolutely do not see a way Tennessee loses in SEC play.
Well, even when Kentucky's at their best, Tennessee still does not lose to Kentucky. So, I mean, even if they were to win against Ole Miss, I still would not be scared of the Wildcats whenever Tennessee has to play against them. But how about that Florida game that I know that every Tennessee fan was keeping an eye on this game? What were your thoughts about that, Tucker?
Oh, dear. They got problems in the swamp again. 18-16 loss to USF. And here's the thing. USF, I would say, of all the group of 5 teams this year, if you had to give me just one team that could get in out of the group of 5 into the college football playoff, it would be USF. I think Memphis is a worthy contender as well. We'll see what they do the rest of the year. As a matter of fact, USF is at Memphis, which is a very intriguing group of 5 matchup later on in the season. But it's going to be somebody out of an American conference this year because the Mountain West is just not good enough right now. Not good enough to be getting a team in. Boise State certainly not after being beat head-to-head by USF. That suddenly creates a very intriguing matchup between USF and Miami next weekend down there in Hard Rock Stadium. But, man, that's 2 weeks in a row that we've seen – a team like Alabama or Florida go down that Tennessee is prone to losing to over the years, especially on the road. And it's just like, well, they're not exactly who we thought they were. They're a little too hyped up going into the season. And they paid the price too. They absolutely paid the price. But I think Florida's loss is definitely worse though, because it was at home. I think Alex Golesh may be coaching his way into an SEC job vacancy here in the next year or two, so we shall see what exactly happens there. But yeah, it was wild because we were watching that finish at Gus's, so I had some very happy people munching on their hoagie bread and Philly cheesesteaks and all that fun stuff. But yeah, always a good week to see the Gators lose. It's been a generational hate watching year for Tennessee fans, and we're only 2 weeks into the season. A few more teams on the schedule here that I hadn't mentioned yet. Oklahoma beat Michigan 24-13. I think Michigan's offensive line is not great. I'd have to ask our boy TJ about that. Bryce Underwood, 9 of 24, 142 yards for Michigan is not great. They did have one long touchdown run, but overall, I think just one or two chunk plays for Michigan the entire game, including that one. John Mateer made like one mistake on an overthrow that led to an interception, but he had 3 touchdowns total in this game, 1 passing, 2 rushing. So the guy can make plays with his legs. So I'm excited to see what they do in SEC play, but there's some juice out there in Norman this year that was not there last year. And just a couple more to mention here before we wrap up with the other teams on Tennessee's schedule. You had New Mexico State beating Tulsa 21-14. Good for New Mexico State. I don't think they're a very good football team. And then lastly, you mentioned it earlier, but Vanderbilt 44, Virginia Tech 20. I don't know what to make of Vanderbilt right now. I don't think Virginia Tech's a very good football team. Their offense has looked lackluster 2 weeks in a row against SEC teams. They were at least okay defensively against South Carolina. They were not against Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt had like 260 rush yards against them. And that's Vandy's biggest road win against a Power 4 opponent, I believe, since Kentucky in 2012. So pretty monster win for the boys in West End and Diego Pavia. But all that said, I still think the only game that's a certainty for them right now in the SEC is a win at home against Kentucky. I look at the schedule. Mizzou and Auburn are not who we thought they were. LSU can still be tough. And then you factor in the road schedule, which is also very difficult. So I do think they're going to stay close to where they were last season. But at the same time, it's just hard for me to envision Vandy winning more than 7, at the very most 8 games in a regular season.
Yeah, I mean, this definitely isn't like your traditional 2-10 Vanderbilt team that we've seen in years past. I mean, I do think that Vanderbilt, they probably are going to be about as good as they were last season. I could see them getting an upset win during the season. But like as far as whenever they come into Knoxville, I think that there was so much crap talked by Diego Pavia. And there was those clips, I think, from the SEC TV show that I have not seen yet about them like putting ultra focus on Tennessee with the coaching staff and everything. I just don't see a scenario where Vanderbilt's competitive against Tennessee. And honestly, based on what happened last season and with the addition of all the crap that Diego Pavia has been talking, I honestly wouldn't be surprised if Tennessee's 2 best defensive performances of the season would be against Vanderbilt and Arkansas. Now, that Arkansas game, I think Tennessee's going to put it on them for what happened last year. And Vanderbilt, I think it could be the same story too, especially being in Knoxville too. I imagine that's going to be one of the louder games of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. One more bonus round game for you. UNLV 30, UCLA 23. I got home just in time to see the finale of that game, see Nico throw his pick. He threw 1 touchdown pass in that game, and it was a very short one. It was like a wheel route maybe, and then he ran for one that was pretty long, so I guess you could call that impressive. But he had to stat pad a little bit in this game because they got down in a hole early. I think when we were driving back, it was 23-0 at one point in favor of UNLV. UNLV is not a bad team in the Mountain West, but by no means a team UCLA should be losing to.
Yeah, I know UNLV was ranked at one point last season. I mean, so not a terrible team. But, man, I saw this meme earlier today on Twitter that made me laugh. It was like it had a picture of like Owen Wilson, then had someone else named Owen, and then had a picture of Nico, and it said Owen too, which was pretty nice to see.
Very nice.
But I didn't actually get to see anything from that game. So, I mean, I don't know how Nico performed. Of course, I saw that they lost the game, but I would assume that Nico still had around 200 yards passing, maybe even a little bit less. His traditional stats for games.
Yeah, I think it was like 250 this time around.
Really?
Well, they had to throw their way back into the game, Jordan. You know they can't run the ball.
Well, I mean, honestly, 250, that's probably like what his second highest total besides like that Chattanooga game.
gonna need to look back at the game log, but that's a lot more than what he did in the average SEC game last season. He did throw for like 290 against Kentucky, but that's because his receivers could have helped him out a little bit in that game, but yeah, they were just still out of sync. Out of sync all of last season on offense. He's still out of sync there. They play New Mexico next week. It would be very funny if they lost that game. Not thinking Tennessee will look over Mississippi State now. I don't. Yeah, Mississippi State will be hosting Tennessee as its first SEC game of the season. So I don't see that as a possibility, fortunately. And also there's the thing with Josh Heupel and Jeff Lebby, so there's some motivation to not lose to your former associate, I would say, from Josh Heupel and company. Okay, looking at the polls for this week, it's funny. Tennessee won by 19 against Syracuse last week, only moved up 2 spots. Won by 55 against East Tennessee State this week, moved up 7 spots to number 15. That feels like a pretty appropriate rating, if I had to say. Some other notes in the poll. I think the LSU-Clemson showdown in week 1 might have been a little bit overblown. Neither of those teams look good this week. LSU sitting at number 3. They beat Louisiana Tech, who's had a coach on the hot seat for like 2 years now, 23-7. And their offense did not look good in that game. Defensively, they were fine, but their offense did not look good against Louisiana Tech. And then Clemson, and we were watching bits and pieces of that game, Jordan. They were down, 16 at one point? They had to go on a run there to win that game 27-16 at home against Troy of all teams. I definitely don't think either Carolina school belongs where they're sitting right now in the poll, just because South Carolina, 38-10 win against South Carolina State is what it is. But what if I told you 3 of the 5 touchdowns scored by South Carolina in that game did not come from the offense? You had 1 scoop and score, and then you had 2 punt return touchdowns, which were, of course, Beamer specials. And, good for having a good special teams and defense. But the Lenore Sellers hype is just a little confusing to me right now. I'm still not buying it. There's some potential. There's absolutely some potential, but I don't understand why people are hyping him up as this Heisman-worthy quarterback when he is clearly not that right now. Just a few more notes in the poll here. USF jumping in at number 18 overall, which is, I think, somewhat deserving. I would have put them a little bit further down the poll than 18, but good for them for getting in. Mizzou and Auburn are in there now. Auburn looked a little sloppy this week, even though they won by 39 against Ball State. I want to say there were like 5 sacks that they gave up in that game to a team like Ball State, which is not great. And let me tell you, Mizzou might have itself an offense, and we might have been sleeping on Mizzou again. I actually think they could have potential to do more if that offense is, in fact, that good in SEC play than what many of us were thinking going into the season. Teams demoted from the poll. Arizona State this week. They kind of looked rough in week 1 against Northern Arizona too, which is, I think, a big part of the rationale there. SMU for losing to Baylor in overtime. And, of course, the Florida Gators.
Yeah, it's pretty nice to see them fall out. I feel like Tennessee fans always win when Florida loses. It is interesting to see South Florida there at 18 now. I'm a little okay with it, honestly. It's just funny to see them ahead of Alabama now, which, man, did you ever, 5 years ago, would you ever have expected USF being ahead of Alabama?
Well, here's what's funny, man. They played Alabama in that home and home the last 2 seasons, and they gave Alabama a game both times. They didn't score much in the first game, but Bama only won 17-3 in 2023 down there in Tampa. And then you look at the game in Tuscaloosa last season. I want to say Bama was either just ahead or just down, a lot of lead changes going on for the first 3 quarters of that game. Now, Bama ended up winning decisively in the end, but who's to say they couldn't do it if they hosted that game this year? USF, that is. So, USF getting into the poll is impressive, and that truly was a sleeping giant for a while in the group of 5 ranks, because you mentioned BJ Daniels and Quentin Flowers to me this weekend. Those are some names of past great quarterbacks at USF that have been gone for a little bit now, but Alex Golesh doing some good work down there in Tampa, something that they just haven't seen in a long time.
College football is even more exciting when you've got some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread, and I've got a 40-plus year track record. 11-0 in the college football playoff for me last year against the money line, 8-3 against the spread. And I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill of Wager Talk is our ace in the hole, show stopper. 7 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick. 28-12 against the spread the last 3 years. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace. Check out those numbers. Become a YouTube or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and then select a betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2025 a winner now.
All right, before we transition into this very, very high-stakes matchup with Georgia, we do have one other matter to address, and that is in the world of Tennessee football recruiting. We had a decommitment this week with JB Shabazz, the 4-star offensive lineman, going from Tennessee to North Carolina. That is changing his commitment over there. If you are keeping track, Bill Belichick and Mario Cristobal are now your clubhouse leaders in flipping Tennessee football commitments away. There's one more. I believe it's Eli Drinkwitz who has one with Brandon Anderson. But the good news is for Tennessee, they have not lost any of their key commitments, no pun intended, in the flipping season that we've seen. And I do wonder if part of this is related to the Kamari Blair flip from South Carolina to Tennessee, just because it didn't make a whole lot of sense with him going there in the first place. And then, of course, he flipped back. I wonder if he committed to South Carolina knowing JB Shabazz had committed to Tennessee. Then he flipped to Tennessee, and then Shabazz saw that, and then a week later decided to flip to North Carolina. It makes sense for both of them, geographically speaking. Like Kamari Blair is a Tennessee guy from Clarksville. Shabazz, I want to say, is somewhere in like Greensboro, North Carolina, maybe. But overall, the 5 guys that have flipped on Tennessee in this cycle are not huge losses for the Vols, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, of course, it sucks when you lose a recruit, but I mean, I feel like it's not the biggest loss in the world losing Shabazz. I mean, when I realized that Tennessee had 3 offensive tackle commits in this class, I wondered if there could be some movement there. So, I mean, yeah, I guess that ended up happening with JB Shabazz going out there with Bill Belichick, which has been an interesting start to the season for them as well. But yeah, I mean, it sucks Tennessee losing Shabazz, but I mean, at least it's not Asinda, because I think Gabriel Asinda is going to be a big player for Tennessee in the future. And I mean, Tennessee still got all their 5-stars so far. I think they have 4 right now. And I mean, it's still a good recruiting class. Tennessee, I think it says right here, yeah, still the number 8th class according to 24/7. So Tennessee's still rolling. Not a huge loss. And I guess we'll see if Tennessee has any more commitments in this class. I mean, I imagine they do get a couple more guys, but I don't know if we're going to get any other big recruits like we did with flipping keys or anything like that.
Yeah. You still have 3 offensive linemen in this class. Of course, Blair, who we just mentioned. You mentioned Gabriel Ascenda. And then also Edward Baker, the kid from Baltimore. He's a little bit more of a project, 3-star kid, but they'll be fine. I think they'll be just fine, even though you do like to have as many offensive linemen as you can on a roster in any given season. Okay, shall we get into this Georgia game that is of the highest stakes this weekend in Neyland Stadium? And it really is a high-stakes matchup when you've got College Game Day in town and the A-team on the broadcast. You've got Kirk Herbstreit, Chris Fowler, Holly Rowe all in town for this game. Even though it's a 3:30 game, they usually do the night game instead, but that's Florida and LSU. I guess Florida taking the loss to USF last week and Louisiana Tech hanging around with LSU made them not want to do that game. I don't know. But yes, you've got all of those people in town. Still don't know who the guest picker is just yet for this game. I'm sure we'll find out here pretty soon. I've heard it is probably not going to be Morgan Wallen. I've seen a few different people submitted as potential guests this time around. Would imagine it's probably not going to be Peyton Manning just because he's done it 1 or 2 times recently. Even though I do love him on broadcast, like the Manning cast is an awesome thing. You should absolutely watch it when you're done watching us. Now, as far as other contenders go, I guess Dolly Parton's still out there. You could potentially get her. Please don't do Kenny Chesney. Kenny Chesney is not a real Tennessee fan. We disowned him like a long time ago. It's been at least 10 years since we disowned him from the fan base. So hopefully he will not be there this time around to make the pick for Tennessee. But I've seen some other names floating around too.
I saw a really fun one.
Which one?
Johnny Knoxville, man. I would absolutely love it if he ended up being one of the guest pickers.
Oh, yeah. That'd be a good one, too. You could get him. What about Quentin Tarantino, Knoxville native?
Yeah.
You could get him. You could get him on the set with you. There's one other one that I saw. Oh, the guy from Severance that graduated from Tennessee.
Oh,
Forget his name.
That's a great show, by the way,
Yeah.
if you haven't checked into it.
I've not watched it. I'm sure a lot of you watching this have. I don't really watch things on TV that aren't sports, but yeah, that's another pretty worthy mention, I would say, just because of he's a trendy pick, I would say, to make the pick because they had Peyton the last time, and then Bianca Belair, the WWE girl who did track at Tennessee. I think it was track, but those are just some potential guest pickers for Tennessee. So let's get to the game itself. Tennessee. The line keeps creeping toward Tennessee in this game. It was Georgia 6.5 a while ago. I think it moved 3 more points today, which is interesting. It kind of feels like both teams or both fan bases, I should say, are not super optimistic about their odds in this game. Tennessee, it's like, well, how good is Syracuse really? And even in that Syracuse game, there were some glaring issues that need to be fixed. And then Georgia, it's like we haven't played anybody. They look like they have an offense. And that could be problematic for us going into Neyland Stadium for the first time in a while. Now, I will say this about the series. Of course, Tennessee is on a prolonged losing streak. Have not won since 2016, the famous Hail Mary down there in Sanford Stadium. And in the Heupel era, we've not seen Tennessee score more than 17 points in a game against Georgia. The only semi-competitive matchups between Tennessee and Georgia since this streak started have been in Athens and not in Knoxville. It's kind of like the long streak Tennessee had against Alabama when the blowouts were happening in Knoxville, and if you were going to get a closer game, it was going to be in Tuscaloosa. So need to see some progress from Tennessee on the offensive side in this game if I am going to believe at any point that they're going to win. It feels like, it's just a lot of different versions of the same game. Tennessee gets off to a nice start, and then you get to the second quarter, like midway through, and it's gone suddenly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, we haven't seen enough from Georgia this year to really get a good idea of how they're going to be in this game. But I will say, it seems like ever since Kirby Smart's been at Georgia, one of the things that's had them play competitive against Tennessee is quarterback play, which I'm not 100% believer in Gunnar Stockton yet. And I think that we've seen with Miami and Carson Beck. I mean, he's been playing pretty well so far, and it seemed like every time he played against Tennessee, he would have the best game of his entire season. So, I mean, I almost wonder, I mean, with Georgia not having as good of a quarterback as they've had in years past, if Tennessee can, maybe get the upset in this game. Like, I'm feeling a lot more confident about this Georgia game than I did going into the season. And as I was mentioning a little bit earlier, it's weird seeing some of these teams that we thought, I mean, they still could, don't get me wrong, but some of these big teams that we were worried about going into the season seems to be more human than we thought. Like, we've already seen Alabama get handled by Florida State. We watched Florida lose to USF. And as we mentioned earlier, Georgia only scored 28 points against Austin Peay. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if Tennessee finally gets it done against Georgia in this game. And I think one of the big keys, like as I've been mentioning these past 2 weeks, I mean, Tennessee's offensive line's been playing well. I think if Tennessee can run the football effectively against Georgia and Joey Aguilar doesn't create any turnovers, then I think Tennessee's got a good shot of winning this game. But then again, like I said, we don't know enough from Georgia, but we will find out after this weekend.
One other note we should mention about this, Big John Henderson is being honored at halftime for his College Football Hall of Fame induction. So want to put on a show for Big John. I think we should keep that in the back of our heads as Tennessee is playing this game. So here are my thoughts on this game right now, just with what we've seen from Georgia. And the samples aren't great, right? You've got a 45-7 win over a Marshall team with 75 new players on its roster, brand new coaching staff, and a 28-6 win over Austin Peay in what was kind of a weird weather game. There are some mixed opinions in Athens, as there probably should be. I watched a little bit of Brooks Austin's film study today to kind of prepare myself for this a little bit. Defensively, they've been holding teams to around 200 yards a game. I don't know if they'll be able to do that against Tennessee just because they're way better than Marshall and Austin Peay, but you're off to a good start defensively. On offense, they're running the ball fine. They ran for, I think, 190 last week against Austin Peay, which is not lighting the world on fire, but it's still pretty good. I mean, I'd say if you can get over 160 in a game on the ground, you're having a pretty good day. They block really well. They do block really well. Their offensive line's been looking good. They did lose a couple fumbles in that game against Austin Peay, which is something they got to fix. As far as the quarterback situation goes with Gunnar Stockton, he's not playing like a first-round quarterback in the NFL draft. He's playing a lot like a game manager. They're not doing anything overly complicated with him right now. And I think that's something you got to take advantage of. Like, I don't have a ton of keys for this game just yet because, again, we don't know enough about Georgia right now to really formulate any informed opinions, I guess you could say. But one thing, and I get it, there is a different group of supporting cast and characters on both sides of the ball for Georgia offensively and the Tennessee defensively. But if I had to give you one key right now, bring the heat. You got to bring the heat this year because that's what cost you in Athens last season. Carson Beck also helped it a little bit that his receivers did not have their cases of the dropsies over the course of that game in Athens last season. But I want to say Tennessee had like one TFL that entire game, no sacks on Carson Beck, who had been lit up the week before by Ole Miss. So you've got to find a way to get into the backfield more than you did last year. And there is some concern about that potentially just with the injuries to Tennessee in the front seven, which, by the way, we won't discuss any injuries on this show tonight other than Jermon McCoy and Ricky Gibson because they will be out this week, and we know that. But they will have an availability report for the first time, this time on Wednesday night. I believe they come out at 7 Central Time. So keep your eyes out for that when it comes out. But any injuries could be a detriment to what could be an effective game for this pass rush. And they need it to be, because having too much of a clean pocket is just – it's going to hurt you against a team like Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, Tennessee's for sure going to have to get healthy against Georgia. I mean, even if they haven't seemingly been that impressive through the first 2 games of the year, I mean, we do know that Georgia gets it right more often than they get things wrong. So Tennessee's going to have everything going right in this game to want to win against Georgia. But I will say, I mean, just reading like the box scores from some of these games, I mean, it doesn't seem like Georgia has that one it factor on offense. I mean, I'm seeing in the last game, Colby Young, he had 76 receiving yards, which is pretty good. But I mean, the leading rusher only had 69 yards. He did get 2 touchdowns. They had 2 running backs with 2 touchdowns. But I mean, they didn't have a single passing touchdown in the game. And I know that you did mention that it was raining earlier. I didn't get to see too much of the game, so I don't know how much that was playing a factor, but I'm sure it did factor into the game. But I mean, I don't think Georgia has that one guy on offense to worry about like they've had in years past. I mean, especially back when like Brock Bowers was there, you always had to keep an eye on him. But yeah, I mean, Tennessee's had a little bit of injury problems, especially in the Syracuse game. And I think Tennessee still can get the job done without McCoy and without Gibson, but they can't afford to lose any more defensive backs. And I think the defensive line got a little bit healthier last week, but we're going to need them to stay in the game too as well. And I'm just hoping for a breakout game from Joshua Josephs here. I think this could be a good game for him to really get noticed by NFL scouts and get noticed by the national media. I mean, if he gets after it during this game, I think there'll be a lot more talks for him going into the year. And one thing that I really liked about him a lot is he can stop the run too, in addition to being a good pass rusher. So, I mean, I think Tennessee's defense, I still think that they're good so far, but we will really see when Georgia comes into town.
Yeah, so looking at my trusty magazine here for Georgia, I am seeing that they did portal very hard at wide receiver. Colby Young from Miami is one name to keep an eye on. Zachariah Branch from USC, another one to take a look at. Noah Thomas from Texas A&M, tall, rangy receiver at 6'5", 205. He's no Brock Bowers, but they do have a good tight end in Oscar Delp, who's been in the program now for 4 seasons. The offensive line is a lot of newcomers, but they have looked good so far. I mean, it's the same thing with Tennessee. A lot of guys that were new to the program, but they are looking very good on the offensive line. And then defensively, I just trust Kirby Smart to have a good defense most seasons. I know they were somewhat lackluster last season, but overall, I mean, they still did a good job on the defensive end. And it's going to be a tough out for Tennessee, absolutely. Before we go, Jordan, would you like to try and nail a score prediction?
Oh, man, it's so hard for this game because there's so much we don't know from both teams. I mean, I think it's going to be a close game. Honestly, I think Tennessee wins, and I think they do it only by 3 points. So maybe 31-28. That might be my final prediction.
A lot of points. That's a lot of points for Georgia.
Yeah.
To be given up.
I guess that's a good point, but I know they've done well at scoring points against Tennessee in years past, but I don't know. Hopefully it'd be less than that. Well, what's your prediction for the game?
Yeah, I asked the question. I don't have a great answer for you right now. Here's the funny thing. I have almost nailed the margins of victory for Tennessee the first 2 weeks. I've just been way off on the point totals. I thought Tennessee would win by 17 week 1. They won by 19. Thought they won by 56 this past week. They won by 55. The thing is, I just thought they would be much lower scoring games than they were. I think my total for Syracuse was 37. It was 71. My total this week, I think, was 62, ended up being 89. So I am way off on my point totals, unfortunately. But this is very hard because here's the thing. The last couple times Tennessee has beaten Alabama, I've actually picked Alabama to beat Tennessee, and it hasn't happened. I kind of feel like I should pick Georgia to win and see if it happens. A little reverse psychology, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We'll go 24-20 Georgia, but it'll probably flip itself on its head now that I said that. Maybe. Hopefully.
I sure hope so. I think the game's going to be extremely loud. I think this is going to be the closest game that we've seen against Georgia in a while. I just feel it in my heart. Whether or not Tennessee wins or not, I think it's going to be a game that comes down to the fourth quarter.
Absolutely. Well, Jordan, that's all I have for tonight. Anything else that we missed on that was pretty major this past week?
No. I mean, I was going to bring up the Gibson and McCoy injury, but we already did that. Hopefully they can get healthy really soon because, I think Gibson might be out for a little bit, right? Like, I don't think he's coming back anytime soon. But once McCoy comes back in the roster, it's going to be really exciting to see how Tennessee's defense is. I mean, if he fully recovered from that ACL surgery, then Tennessee might take a huge step up in the next couple weeks whenever he comes back on the roster.
Absolutely. Well, that is going to do it for us tonight. Again, thank you guys for watching. If you like what you see here on Tennessee at the Voice of College Football, please like, share, and subscribe to Tennessee at the Voice of College Football on YouTube. Really helps us out. Really helps you get close to all the great Tennessee football content that you enjoy. For Jordan Binkley, I am Tucker Harlan. We will talk to you guys again next week.
College football is even more exciting when you've got some action on the line, and the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread, and I've got a 40-plus year track record. 11-0 in the college football playoff for me last year against the money line, 8-3 against the spread. And I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill of Wager Talk is our ace in the hole, show stopper. 7 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick. 28-12 against the spread the last 3 years. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Corey Bratta, Matt Zemek, and Steve Dace. Check out those numbers. Become a YouTube or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and then select a betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2025 a winner now.